Greetings, YouTube. Besides suffering from a number of mental illnesses, anxiety, depression, and PTSD, I also suffer from ADHD. The combination of these things means that I have a very difficult time finding things. I don't know if this is unique to everyone who suffers from ADHD. I get the impression that some people do, in fact, experience this because of their ADHD. Um, and if I can't find something in my life, it's annoying. It can be frustrating. It's the reason I have multiple rolls of blue painter's tape. There's two right there, and there's one in my shop downstairs. Um, and it's why I have sometimes to methodically look for things in a way that is not particularly healthy for my well-being. I can remember one day when I was trying to find a book, and I asked my wife, I said, please, I know I'm asking a lot from you. I need you to see if you can glance at this bookshelf, see if you can find this book for me. This is the name of the book. And like 15 seconds later, she handed it to me. And the only way I would have been able to find it is to take every single book off that shelf, look at the cover, and say it out loud. Now, why couldn't I find that book? You see, the cover of the book was white. The spine of the book was red. And therein lay the problem. So why do I bring this up? Well, if I can't find something at work, that's a problem, particularly if it's a resource that we need. So we have a part at work. It's roughly rectangular, and it's got a notch right here. Okay, so it's got this section missing. Okay, and when they put it on the rack, under normal circumstances, it's a bundle. They're about this long. They're about this by. They're razor thin pieces of steel. You have to wear gloves when you grab these bundles, man. If you don't, you will lacerate your hands like nobody's business. And normally when they put them on there, they put the notch down here. So long side here, short side here, boom, boom. 6 bundles on a wagon, 3 in a side. Okay, whole thing weighs about 400 pounds when it's done. It amazes me how people always jet out in front of me when I'm pushing one of those down the aisle thinking I can stop that thing on a dime. I cannot. And so if I need those things, I have to go find them out back in the oven area where they come into the building. We bake them for a certain amount of time, and then they sit there until we come get them. So I'm looking for these things, and I know I'm not going to see them. Why? Because even though they most often put the notch down here, sometimes they put the notch up here. And sometimes they only put 4 bundles, and they can put the notch here, here, or here, or here when they're putting them in a vertical position with only 4 bundles. And the only way my brain sees them is with the notch down here in this corner against the back of the wagon like that. I know this. I know my brain is looking for a pattern that could very likely not be there. And what's frustrating is I could actually have my hand on the wagon and not see it. I don't have enough words to describe how frustrating that is. So I have tried to figure out ways to prevent this from happening. I know that all of the wagons that we use in my area have blue transfer tickets. Each bundle has a ticket on it, and they put the tickets together to one kind of pile because you can't put them in the oven when they bake. So we get this little roll of pieces of paper that get shoved on the wagon, and our ones are blue. So I look for the blue labels. That's the first thing I do. Find the blue labels, then look at every single one very intently and look at them from the end because that's the most likely way I'm going to see the different patterns. Second, I could talk to my material handler. Say, hey, do we have any of these inserts in right now? And the material handler will tell me yes or no because they're the ones that take them off the truck and put them into the storage area to be baked. They don't bake them, somebody else does. But the other one that takes them off the trucks, moves them over to the storage area, and parks them waiting for processing. The person who I asked said that we didn't have any. Cool. And then there's another thing I can do, which is when the inserts are in the oven being processed, there's a whiteboard on the outside of the oven. Then you put the part number on the whiteboard, which tells anybody who's walking by which parts are in the oven currently being baked. because we have hundreds of different shapes and sizes in our place, and you can't see inside the oven. It's a 8-foot, cube. The walls are 12 inches thick. The door is 8 inches thick. It has no windows. So you have to have some way of knowing what's inside there. And so you put it on that little whiteboard. So I checked the whiteboard. There's no part numbers on the whiteboard. There's a note there for somebody else, but it's got no part numbers. So I have done everything that is conceivable, due diligence to the nth degree, to compensate for my inability to find things. So I go down into where I work. I text my boss and say, we don't have any of these things. I know you said they were supposed to come in. They didn't come in, which happens. This is not like a once in a lifetime event. No. It happens on a regular basis. They'll say, hey, this is going to be in on Tuesday, and on Tuesday it's not in. And they'll say, hey, it's going to be in on Thursday, and it's not in on Thursday, and it comes in next Monday. That kind of thing happens to us, sadly, all the time. So I tell my boss, I put the guy on another job. I spend 4 hours training him. At the 4-hour mark into my day, we have another lead operator, and she always comes in early. She comes in at 3 a.m. 6 days a week. She's very dedicated. And she finds them. Why did she find them? Because they were inside the oven. But the oven had no numbers on it. So how was I to know that there were instances in there? Why would I open the oven? There's no numbers on the outside. To everyone in the world, that means the oven's empty. When there's no numbers, there's no parts. But she finds them. We get them down to the press they need to run on. We get the press up and going. And off my guy goes to go run the parts that he was supposed to have started running at the beginning of the shift. But I couldn't find them. Now this pushes a big red button inside my skull. It's the "you've been set up to fail" button. And it's one of the biggest triggers I have. When my brain tells me I have been set up to fail because some key piece of information was not provided to me, my brain sees that as an intentional act. Doesn't matter if it was or wasn't. My brain sees it as an intentional act. Why is that? I was raised by an abusive alcoholic. And I lived in a information desert. There just wasn't any. I was in a knowledge vacuum, and yet I was expected to know everything that was going on inside the skull of a psychotic drunk. And when I didn't, as a 3-year-old, act like an adult, as a 6-year-old, act as an adult, like a 9-year-old, act as an adult, as a 12-year-old that didn't act as an adult, I would be lucky if I would just be called stupid. I got called stupid every day of my life for 14 years. Newsflash, I'm not stupid. But when you hear it every day, you take it to heart. And I was constantly put into the position of being given fractional information and expected to have the whole picture. I was set up to fail every single day of my life. So now as an adult, when I find myself in a situation that smacks of that, that seems very similar to that, I don't react well. And when all this fell down last Friday, well, last Friday for me, it doesn't really matter when this video goes up, I didn't just get angry. There are people who are sensitive to anger, so they would be very upset if they saw me angry. Then there are people who are knowledgeable about anger, like my therapist, and he would perceive me as being very angry, and it would be a scary kind of angry for him. I wasn't that kind of scary angry. I was scary angry that scared me. I was in a very, very dangerous, dark place. I spent the rest of my day just working. I didn't go to break again. I didn't talk to anybody again. I just ran my press, and I ignored everything around me except my job. At the end of the shift, I contemplated, should I even go home? Because I know my wife's not going to want to see me like this. I wouldn't want to see me like this. I sure as hell didn't want to be around me like this. I just didn't have an option. But I knew I should. So I went home and I walked in. I told my wife, I said, this has got nothing to do with you. It's got nothing to do with us. I'm in a bad place. And I'm going to do everything I can to get out of it. But right now, I'm not. It took me a while. And by the end of the day, I was in a better place than I had started. But I was still easily triggered. And I found myself getting angry very quickly about unimportant, insignificant things. Because the echoes of that being set up to fail were still in my head. And I hated it. And I hate that I was trained this way. I hate that I was raised this way. And I hate that this thing still lives inside my skull every goddamn day of my life. And in my good moments, it's just an abstract memory. It's something I realize that I can fall victim to and I can prevent it from happening. But other times I can't. Other times it just takes over my entire body. It is a visceral possession. I lose myself. And it's terrifying. And I don't even really have anybody to hate for it, because while the man that did this is still alive, the man that did it is dead. He's not that guy anymore. He doesn't even remember those times thanks to all that alcohol. He may be sober now, but doesn't do me a goddamn bit of good now, does it? I'm still carrying around those patterns, those behaviors, those reactions. And I'm working on fixing that. I didn't get angry at anybody else that day. I contained it. I just kind of turned it off until I knew that I could get into a place where it would be quieter and calmer here, where I could get food, where I could just sit here and veg out for a little bit and not think about what had happened to me at work. I responded to it the best I could, diffused the situation as quickly as possible, and got myself into a better place. It may have taken me 12 or 14 hours to do it, but I did it. And that's thanks to the chemicals that I take. That's thanks to therapy I've taken. And that's thanks to incredible amounts of time and effort I have put into this process. I work on improving myself every damn day of my life. It is a job. And I don't know how long it'll take me to get where I want to be. Even if I don't ever get there, the journey is worth it. The effort is worth it. So I wasn't set up to fail with those parts that I couldn't find. It was just one small blunder after another small blunder and people not doing their jobs quite right, but none of it was intentional. But I didn't really feel that way about it. I just got enraged and I scared myself and I had a crappy day and I carried it around with me for hours on end. I don't like looking for stuff. I'm not good at it. So let's talk about being set up to fail. Have you ever been there? I hope you haven't. But if you have, let's talk about it.